One of the most popular ways to learn a language nowadays is through language learning apps on your smartphone. But you may be wondering which ones exactly are going to work better than others, because there are a plethora of different language learning apps to choose from and they all kind of look enticing. Which ones do I actually want to invest into looking into, and which ones are going to be absolute garbage? Well, in today's video I'm going to be just highlighting some of the language learning apps that I personally enjoy, and I'm also going to mention a few apps that I've not personally had the chance to look into myself, but at some point this year I will look into these apps because I am very curious about how these apps perform. And if you'd like a full video of me looking at different language learning apps, there is a playlist in the description below of me talking about different language learning apps in depth. I've only got 4 language learning app reviews done so far, but my plan is this year to release a few more as well on different apps that I've not yet had the chance to release reviews on. But this video is kind of just a quick overlook on the apps that I use and apps that I think are going to be useful for 2024 in general. I'm going to start off with my most favorite language learning app personally, which is LingQ. And the reason I like LingQ is because out of all of the language learning apps, I think LingQ is the most likely to help you go from absolutely zero in a language to being somewhat proficient. It doesn't help you to speak a language unless you are going to be proactive and actually speak along with what you're reading. But LingQ is an app where you can just use it to read material and listen to material. You can import material from Google, from like articles for example. You can import ebooks and anything else that's a written material. You can just import it into LingQ and then use it as study material. And you highlight words as whether they're known or unknown, and over time you see these words again and again in different contexts, and eventually you mark these unknown words as known, and so your known word count continues to grow over time. It may not be the most fun app, especially for those who don't enjoy reading, but I enjoy reading, especially because it's so important to read in a language that you're trying to learn. It gets your brain used to the patterns of the language, used to the grammar points naturally, and also you get to see the words how they are, so you get used to how words are spelled and written. And if you're learning a language with a different script, again, LingQ is a very good app for this because you get to see this script in all sorts of different words and you constantly get to hear what these words sound like as well. So over time you learn the new script, even if you're a beginner, just by looking at the words and hearing how they're pronounced. You just get used to it after some time, although learning a language with a different script is always going to be a bit slower. But regardless, I just enjoy LingQ overall. It's the best app in my opinion for learning vocabulary. It's way better than apps that just focus on flashcards, because LingQ at least has words that are in context with other words all the time because you're constantly reading in context. It is a language learning app made by a proficient language learner, Steve Kaufman, who's also a YouTuber as well. He can speak like 20 odd languages at different degrees, and he's made LingQ because that's something that he wants as a language learner, and it's personally one of my favorites, if not my favorite language learning app on the market, and I don't know how anything could really beat it in terms of the amount of content that you can learn on the app. Babbel is another language learning app that I enjoy. I know some people talk about Busuu over Babbel. They're kind of similar. I will talk about Busuu in a bit in this video, but for now I want to focus on Babbel because I enjoy Babbel. Again, I've done a full in-depth video on Babbel, a review of Babbel, which is going to be somewhere in the description and also on the corner of this video. Essentially, I enjoy Babbel because Babbel is laid out in an easy to understand way. It's hard to explain, but it really helped me kickstart my learning in Polish. With LingQ and Babbel together, my Polish just kind of propelled a lot in the beginning, and I don't think my Polish would be as good as it is now without these two particular apps. Some people may not like Babbel because they may say that it's just a bit boring, kind of a personal preference, but in my opinion, I think Babbel is a very easy to use app, and it's laid out in lessons that are about 10 to 15 minutes long, so it's quite digestible as well. And just, I don't know, in general, like I just find Babbel really good. There are a few points that I'm not a big fan of. For example, the games on Babbel, they're not really worth playing, but in terms of like studying about particular grammar points or studying about vocabulary or whatever else it may be, Babbel teaches a decent amount of content on the languages that are on the app. If you're looking at studying any one of the languages that Babbel offers, I would at least recommend to give Babbel a go. But again, if you'd like to see my full review, it is going to be in the description below. italki isn't so much a language learning app on the phone, even though it is an app, but it's used mostly on like a desktop or something, because what it is that you basically pay a tutor for like an hour of their time, and then you can talk to them in the language you're trying to learn, and they will help you through that language gradually over time. I think this is one of the best ways to learn a language because you've literally got a native speaker of the language that is there to help you and to teach you new things and just to overall have a fun time communicating with this person in the language you're trying to learn. There are other websites that do a very similar thing to this. Italki is just one that I've personally gravitated towards. I quite enjoy Italki. It does cost some money every time you have a lesson, so if you can't afford it, maybe it's not the best choice for you right now, but it's worth the money if you can afford it. And also, it may be the case that you would need to find a tutor that is right for you. Sometimes some tutors are not as good as other times, but if you find a good tutor, then it's going to be really beneficial to your language learning journey. Bunching in together Tandem and HelloTalk, because these two I've used and they're basically the same thing. You can connect with people for free who are proficient in the language that you're trying to learn, and you're proficient in the language that they're trying to learn. So I am English and I want to learn Spanish. I will find a Spanish person who wants to learn English, and therefore we can converse in each other's languages, and at the same time we can correct each other's errors if errors are made. And the way that the apps work is very useful and very fun, and I wouldn't say it's perfect by any means, because there are issues such as a lot of people go on there to try and use them as dating sites, and so they're not there for language learning, and there's other things as well. But if you find someone who's serious about language learning on these apps and they will speak to you, then you can learn a decent amount just through speaking and texting through to someone who is proficient in that language that you're trying to learn. And at the same time, you help them by learning the language that you can speak as well. It's a very good way to find a language exchange partner, and I would recommend HelloTalk and or Tandem for anyone who is interested in doing this. And this is also a better way to do things if you're a bit shy about doing a face-to-face communication. You don't have to do that on here. You can just text if you would prefer. But these apps also do offer a voice note option, and I believe also a FaceTime option as well if you would like to do that as well. So you can do some really good things on these apps just through day-to-day texting and speaking. Language transfer is the last language I want to talk about in the language learning apps that I actually use myself, because language transfer is quite a simple app in the sense that it only offers audio and you just listen to the audio. It is a teacher who has a student, and the teacher talks to the student and essentially gets them to transfer the language knowledge of English into the various different languages that are on language transfer. The good thing about language transfer that I want to mention now is that it's completely free. Some people find it boring. Personally, I find it really useful, especially for learning French and Spanish. These are the ones that I've used it on properly. I've also looked into it on the Greek and the Arabic and some of the other courses, but I've not completed those courses. They're just more for fun to see how those courses would go. But the French and Spanish courses I've listened to a few times. The way that the languages are broken down and the grammar is broken down in such a way that it's so easy for a beginner to comprehend. It gets to a certain point within the course where all of a sudden, personally, I kind of start to lose where I am in the language and where I am in trying to remember grammar and everything. So at a certain point, it gets a bit more complicated, but that's because languages are complicated, I guess. But regardless, like, there is so much to learn within these courses just through listening and just like absorbing what the teacher's saying and how the student learns. The lessons are like 8 minutes to 10 minutes roughly, and so they're not going to take up too much of your time. And yeah, I just think they're very useful to listen through and to get a good understanding of the point of view of the grammar that it teaches within it. It's hard to explain, but it breaks down grammar in a way that's like easy to digest essentially. And to be honest, these are the few apps that I use personally in order to learn or study languages when I'm just being a bit lazy in my downtime, although there are still a few other apps that I would like to talk about. First of all, Fluyo. Fluyo is an app that is currently only within its beta or alpha stages, and so I can't actually show any footage of the app itself on this video because the developers have specifically asked us to not share any footage or anything of the app. So I will obey those rules and I won't show you anything that I'm not meant to. But essentially, if you'd like to learn more about Fluyo, there are videos on Ikena's YouTube channel about Fluyo because he is the guy who's actually creating Fluyo. And so I've tested Fluyo and it's still within its alpha or beta, I don't know which one, but it's in one of its early stages anyway at the moment. Although there are some things that I would like to see it improve on, I think that it genuinely could be a really good competitor in the language learning app market, and I can see definitely that it could be a lot better than a lot of the current apps at the moment. It's gamified at the same time, it's there to actually help you learn a language, and I think it could easily beat language learning apps such as Duolingo when it comes to actually being fun and also more immersive than an app like Duolingo. And it actually teaches sentences that are more useful than an app like Duolingo. Like I say, I can't show any screenshots or footage of the app at the moment. I believe the app is coming out sometime in the summer of this year, in 2024, and so I will have to wait until then to give it a proper language learning app review video, and obviously for you guys to also see that video and to see reviews on it in general. But Fluyo are offering the following languages that are up on screen right now. For any of you guys that are interested in studying any of the languages up on screen, these are the languages that Fluyo are currently saying that they're going to offer. And yeah, like I say, it's a very fun app. I don't know what else to say about it or what else I can say about it. I don't want to say too much because obviously it's for the developers to kind of produce that hype around the app. And I don't want to say what they don't want to be out there, but I quite enjoy the app so far. What I will say, I enjoy the app, and I think it's got a lot of potential to be even better than what it already is. So Fluyo is definitely an app that I think has a lot of potential for 2024 when it does release. So keep an eye out for Fluyo, and also keep an eye out for a Fluyo language learning app review on my channel when it finally releases. So now I want to talk about 3 language learning apps that I personally have not had the chance to properly look into, but a lot of people talk well of these language learning apps, and so I do want to mention them. And this year I want to get into these 3 apps if possible, if I have the money to and whatever else, to then give them a language learning app review dedicated video. These 3 are as follows: Busuu, Pimsleur, and Speakly. Busuu, a lot of people compare to Babbel in the fact that they're quite similar. Busuu has some features that Babbel doesn't have, and I think vice versa as well. Busuu has a feature where you can speak, and then other people who are native in the language you're trying to learn will help you correct your speech. So that's one thing that I'm interested in looking at when I get to look at Busuu. Busuu also offers languages that Babbel doesn't necessarily offer. One that I'm interested in is Japanese on Busuu, which is not offered on Babbel, and I always wish that Babbel would have had Japanese, but it just doesn't. I'm interested in Busuu for the Japanese course, but there are other languages as well on Busuu that I would like to look into as well, if possible. And that's basically all I know at the moment of Busuu. If you know anything about Busuu, let me know down in the comment section below. If you use Busuu and Babbel, please let me know which one you prefer, if you prefer one over the other. I think it's worth mentioning because a lot of people enjoy this app, but I've not used it myself, so I can't give any more of a description for now, but I will be coming out hopefully with a video this year on a Busuu language app review at some point. Pimsleur is another one that I see so many people speak praises of, and essentially Pimsleur is similar to language transfer in the sense that it's all audio based, and I don't think there's any other like written or anything else part to Pimsleur. I think Pimsleur is 100% audio based. Please let me know if I'm wrong on that. I've only been able to use Pimsleur for the free half an hour per language course, so I've listened to like 6 or 7 different languages on Pimsleur to see how the first half an hour lesson goes, and I quite like the structure. They give you a sentence in the language that you're trying to learn, and you don't understand the sentence, and then they go through it and they basically break it down and say this is how it's said. It's a very slow process. It's kind of a bit outdated and a bit boring, some may think, but I think it works really well because by the end of that half an hour, you re-listen to that audio and all of a sudden you actually understand what's being said. I think Pimsleur has a lot of potential, especially as I've seen a lot of people talk well of Pimsleur. I would like to give it a go myself on any particular language. I don't know which one yet on Pimsleur, but I would like to try on a language that I don't know so well and see how that goes for my progression in Pimsleur. But again, it's mostly due to money and time that I haven't yet got around to trying Pimsleur or Busuu or Speakly, which is the next app I want to talk about, because Speakly is an app that is developed in the country of Estonia, and so it does have Estonian and Finnish as well as a few other languages on offer. But Estonian and Finnish, if you're learning those 2 particular languages, there's not many other language learning apps that offer those 2 particular languages. That already kind of interests me to look at Speakly, as well as the fact that quite a few other really good language learning apps come from Estonia, and so I'm just interested in how Speakly works. Again, I've seen quite a few people speak well of Speakly, and I think it focuses on speaking as well, hence the name Speakly, but I'm not too sure. I actually don't know really anything about Speakly other than like some of the languages that it offers. Again, if you know anything about Speakly or Pimsleur or Busuu that I have not mentioned because of my ignorance towards those language learning apps, please let me know down in the comment section below. And also let me know if there's any apps that I should have mentioned that I have not mentioned in this video. These are apps that personally I use or will use at some point in 2024 in order to study languages. Obviously, some language learning apps will be better than others, depending on the language you want to learn. And that's going to be all for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if so, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. And with all that out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch all of you in the next one. Peace out.